All right, believe it or not, Ray Spiegel in Underwood for a Hidden Gem feature. Ray, usually my first question is always the same to review your coaching and teaching career, but your first question here is going to be a little different. We've kind of had this ongoing saga of get ready to do the interview. I know a lot of coaches and students, and your wife, I guess she didn't talk to you, but she talked to me a little bit on the email. Why you didn't originally want to do this interview?
Well, the main reason why is I've been around Southwest Iowa for almost 30 years now, coaching in various sports, and I really don't consider myself a hidden gem. There's so many people out there that have been influences on my coaching career, teaching career, and life, and I just feel they're more deserving than I am.
Respectable answer, respectable reason, but we've got you here. We've got you cornered, so we're going to run down the coaching and teaching career. Tell me about it. Again, how many years you were doing it, what you did, and all that.
First year I started was 1987 at Maryville High School as assistant boys basketball coach and head freshman coach. And then the next year I moved to Underwood and been here for 29 years. I've been assistant football, junior high basketball, assistant basketball, head track, volunteer track coach, and it's been a very enjoyable experience.
I know you're really well known for your hurdle, like you're the hurdler whisperer or something like that. Can you tell me where the interest in hurdles came from, or did you just faulty, or what happened?
Well, when I first started coaching track at Underwood in '92, our program was more built around middle distance, quarter and half miles, because at that time I felt if we wanted to have a strong track program, that track was built around middle distance. Plus at that time you could only run 3 events. Today you can run 4, and a lot of events in track and field are controlled by middle distance. My assistant coach at that time was Shelly Brown. And she was more of the hurdle guru. We took numerous kids to state in the high hurdles at that time, and she did an excellent job. And I really, kind of set the practices and let her run with it. And I learned a lot of my hurdling technique from Coach Brown.
So how many years in hours, can hours be estimate, do you put into, did you start trying to learn more about the hurdles? Coach Brown taught you a lot, but did you really start to look into it further?
Well, again, it kind of started with my son Ryan. We went to a junior Olympic meet over at Griswold, Iowa, and that was probably in the 4th or 5th grade. And he was going to run 3 events, and he had one more event he could run. Well, his mom used to be a hurdler, so he goes, yeah, I'll try it. Well, Ryan got 2nd place in the race, which allowed him to qualify to the next level, which was the state level. There was only 2 people in the race. So during that time between the regional meet and the state meet, again, I brought Shelly up here, and she worked with Ryan. Then after that, I spent times researching it and just past knowledge from the past great hurdlers we had here at Underwood. And I followed Ryan through, started coaching again as a volunteer in junior high, and it just kind of grew from there. The kids developed a tremendous tradition.
Yeah. Is hurdles, I guess, what's the most important part about it in terms of trying to teach it?
I feel it's the rhythm, being consistent. A lot of times we mention to the kids, you don't jump the hurdles, you run the hurdles. We spend a tremendous amount of time drilling. During the years that I was volunteer coach here at the high school working with the hurdlers, Coach McHaleson, he'd work a tremendous amount of time with starts with the boys down at practice. It was a tremendous amount of fun. The first year that we qualified to shuttle hurdle to state would have been 2010. And we had a couple pretty solid hurdlers at that time, familiar to people around the area. And we kind of looked on our track team and we said, who's a couple athletes that we have that we could turn into hurdlers, kind of going with our theory, you run the hurdles, you don't jump them. So we took Dylan Robinson and Andrew Bonnet, and suddenly they were on our shuttle hurdle team with Ryan, the son, and another kid named Justin Henderson, and they qualified for state. They were in the same district that year with AHS team, which AHSTW. Again, at that time they were just AHST, and they had a tremendous team. Audubon was well skilled at the time, but we were able to get second place and qualified for state. And we knew next year we had all those kids coming back. One of the kids decided not to go out his senior year. Part of the reason, another kid that's pretty familiar for people in Southwest Iowa here, we had an incoming freshman named Austin Concert. And that next year at the state meet, those 5 or 4 individuals got 5th in the state. They ran their season best time of the year. Our anchor leg had tweaked his hamstring and 100-meter prelim on Friday at state, and that kind of held us back a little bit. But that's kind of how it all began at the high school level.
Have you had a shuttle hurdle team there every year since then?
Every year, but that following year when Austin was a sophomore and Ryan was a junior, we kind of had to reload again. We moved up to 2A that year. Again, at the district meet, we ran a season best time, but it just wasn't enough to get through that particular year.
Austin was somebody I knew we had to definitely talk about, because this is he had mentioned after he won the state championship, he was like 110th or whatever in his first ever meet ISU indoor in the hurdles, and then he eventually wins the 110 high state championship in his last race. Can you talk about his growth and improvement over the years?
With Austin, again, that was at the Iowa State indoor, and it was a struggle that day. And when we kind of said, hey, Austin, we're going to run you in the high hurdles, he kind of looked like, man, I'm pretty comfortable with this shuttle. But like anything that young man did, and all our kids, they look at it as a challenge. They know they're going to grow through the program, and they're going to have success. And each year he continued to improve. But we've always had tremendous competition in practice. When you're practicing with kids like Andrew Bonnet, Dylan Robinson, Ryan at that time, Nick Peterson, you're going to improve. So a lot of times our practices made the meets so much more relaxing for the kids because they know they had competed against some of the best around.
I was going to kind of ask you about that too. How do you do you have them compete against each other in practice? How often is that an occurrence?
Yeah, they compete every day. We have our warm ups. We go through our drills, and a lot of times with the shuttle, we did a lot of first hurdle drills, second hurdle drills. Sometimes we'd work up the 5 and work our way back down, and there'd be days what we call it'd be rack 'em day, where they'd run the shuttle hurdle relay in the order that we'd run it at a meet, but they'd be by themselves. So when those kids would go out on the practice field and run at that time a 101, they know in competition that time's probably going to drop. So, I mean, those were fun days to see the excitement on their face and keep building it, because it became kind of a tradition. Hey, we got to top what last year's team did, and we build on it. Not only in the lows, in the highs, but also the lows. Nick's really carried that tradition on.
So when Ryan and Austin ran against each other there in the final, what was that? Ryan's senior 2013. They're kind of used to that. So we talked a lot. That's a lot on hurdles. So, but again, you were the head track coach there for a spell. Tell me about some other successes there while you were a head coach. Some other names that folks will remember.
Well, again, that was back in the 90s, and I'm pretty old, and some people probably remember these kids. Our 97 team, but everything was built from the year before. And the 97 team, they were conference champs, first time Underwood ever won the conference championship. They were district champs, had to go over to Trainer, which was just a barn burner of a district with fierce competition with teams from You'll definitely remember these teams: Woodbine, Trainer. At that time, just just Manning and IKM. Those were tremendous districts. And if you'd get through the district, there's probably a pretty good chance you were going to have success at state. That year, out of 17 events, we qualified 13 for state. The kids, we never really had the kid that was just a flat-out flyer that could run like the 157 half or the 49 quarter, but we had tremendous depth on that team. I would have dueled any team in 1A that year and felt very confident.
Who were some of those? 1997. That was a really just an overall good time for Underwood, wasn't it?
Yeah, the kids fed off of each other. The football program was within the next couple of years starting to have success. The wrestling program at that time was having success. We had a tremendous amount of depth. Coming off that 97 season, then we went into 98. Again, was conference champs that year. Took, I believe, 6 events to state that year. Then in 99 and 2000, we had 2 excellent teams. We were fortunate because we had kids buy in and would run the half miles. And if you can run a respectable half mile, you're going to be able to run a solid quarter, a great 200 or a good 200, and probably even go up and run a mile. There's many kids. I remember our 2000 squad, we had a kid named Joe Durick. Joe at the conference meet won the 2 mile, the mile, and got second in the half, and he ran a 2:04 and a half. Well, the first place finisher was a kid named Jimmy Smitty, and he won the half in 2:01. Well, those kids would run on our 4x8 or anchor or medley, then come back and run the 4x4. So for numerous years there, we had tremendous depth in the middle distances.
Like you said, it kind of runs the track meet there when you have that kind of stuff. Some guy during your coaching tenure, Western Iowa Conference was pretty loaded with some good boys teams and coaches. Some of those, you speak about some of those fellow coaches that maybe kind of related with you and pushed you.
Dave Munt, who used to coach at Trainer, Phil Hummel, who was at Woodbine, Coach Bergstrom from Griswold. Donnie Sears from Sydney. Those are just great individuals, and to watch how they work with their programs, because I always observed when I went to meets, and I learned a tremendous amount from just watching those individuals.
Were you how much older are you than Donnie?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm 53. I think Donnie, he's probably just 21 or 22 now. Yes.
That's what I was trying. I thought Donnie was a Hamburg guy, and that's kind of what leads me into your background, kind of before all this coaching and teaching fun began. Tell me about the childhood. I'm sure sports were a big part of your life, and where you graduated high school, your college, and all that fun stuff.
I did graduate from Hamburg in 1980. I had a great support system. From my parents to my coaches, I wasn't always the easiest to get along with, and they helped me out tremendously. Many of the values that I have today, I learned and developed from those individuals back in those adolescent days. After high school, then I went to Northwest Missouri State. Like most kids at that time, really didn't know what I wanted to do. Changed my major, and then graduated from Northwest in 86, and then, like I said, started this career.
Tell me about, we've talked about some of your rival coaches and stuff. Tell me about the folks here in the Underwood schooling system and the other coaches that you've coached with. And you've mentioned a few that you learned a lot from, and maybe some mentors that you had.
Well, when I started working with the football program, I was a volunteer assistant at that time, and the head coach at that time was Nick McGrain. He was an influence. He had coached at numerous places or numerous schools in the area. Then it was more as I grew along or went along in my career. Some of the young coaches, I love working with young coaches within the system. We've got some excellent coaches here, great support system. I've already mentioned Nate McKelson, Brad Bloom. I've had a tremendous amount of time working with him the past couple years within the basketball program. Those gentlemen, they're going to keep the program going because they're so positive with kids, so positive. They'll put them into situations that's going to allow them to have success.
You mentioned your son Ryan. Tell me about your family. And your wife was kind of a big part of this in terms of she sent me an email and said, just tell him HQ says it's okay. What's HQ? And then tell me about the rest of the family there.
Okay, now you're putting me on the griddle here. HQ stands for headquarters. It's just kind of a running joke here at the U. Whenever someone says, Ray, what are you going to do tonight? What you got going this weekend? You got to check out with HQ. Both our kids, Tina and I's son and daughter, graduated for Underwood. My daughter now is a radiologist. My son, Ryan, just finished his junior year at Southwest Minnesota State in Marshall, Minnesota. Daughter's name is Monica. Again, with my wife, 2 kids, I've been blessed.
Is Ryan doing any running or anything there?
No, that career has ended. He just had surgery last December, torn the labrum in his hip. It was an injury from his freshman year at Southwest Minnesota State.
All right, so just enjoying the time there now. So, Ray, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it.
I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, and thanks a lot for taking time.
Thank you.